Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of Healing the Mother Wound with Bethany Webster. In this episode we're going to be talking about the Parentified Daughter, and this is an article that I read that Bethany had written on, and you can expand on this, Bethany, your article, but it was as we emerge as female leaders, why healing the mother wound is so important, and this aspect of the parentified daughter, how it kind of plays out in our lives and what we can do about it. So welcome back, Bethany.
Great to be here. Thank you, Melanie.
So could you expand on what you mean by the parentified daughter?
Certainly, yeah. So the parentified daughter, what that means is it's really a daughter who, where the mother-daughter relationship is kind of turned upside down. So usually in a healthy mother-child relationship, the mother is that stable, steady container, that space where the child can experience all kinds of emotions, sadness, happiness, disappointment. And the mother's there as the steady, safe place and a mirror, because children discover a sense of self through a positive mirroring from the mother. And that's just how we're set up developmentally. And with a parentified daughter, this is actually turned upside down, where the daughter is expected to be the mirror and the safe place for the mother. So in many ways, a parentified daughter loses out on having a childhood, and they have to grow up very fast, and they're often in the role of emotional caretaker. So sometimes it's a physical thing. Sometimes a parentified daughter is actually doing, a lot of the work, adult stuff, like, taking care of other siblings, cooking, doing things that really aren't in a children's role. But because of a lack of parental or mothering figure there, they have to do that. They're conditioned to do it from a young age. And this has detrimental effects on daughters' growing self-esteem, sense of self, and as an adult woman, these parentified daughters have a lot of challenges. And the parentified daughter is just one aspect of the mother wound. There's a lot of different other manifestations of it. But the parentified daughter is a really common and really challenging one to work through. It's something that I went through on my own journey, and a lot of my clients have this pattern. And the challenges of an adult woman who was a parentified daughter, a lot of the challenges have to do with valuing oneself, having really low self-esteem, a background sense of shame, and really the sense that they don't have value unless they're giving to others. So things like SelfCare are really hard for parentified daughters to do, because there's this sense that if I take care of myself or value myself, that I'm depriving other people, or my needs aren't going to be met if I have needs. So it's like this whole thing of suppressing your needs, trying to pretend that you don't have needs. And that comes from being a little girl and, being rejected or withdrawn from when you have needs. So it's a really heartbreaking kind of situation. And it has really powerful implications for women who want to step into leadership, because often parentified daughters can be really high achievers, right? They can be people that get things done, that other people rely on. They can be really successful and functioning out in the world, but often at not seeing their own value. Mm-hmm. So it kind of can set you up for depletion, burnout. And my goal is to really help women to become leaders, to transform this pattern so that they can really flourish as leaders.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well, and I've seen other women experience it too in my friendship circle and clients. And it's really, really one that kind of, it's a real sticking point. I guess is what I want to say, until we realize it. And, you know, just for example, when I read your article, I could feel something really sticking, you know, and I really felt that. And when I read it, it just popped. And looking back, you know, I've burnt out a few times and done this and that. And I've kind of worked, you know, always looked like a very confident person. But then there's been this background feeling of it was never quite enough what I was doing. And of course, as a child, if you are trying to caretake emotionally your mother, as I did, it never actually takes care of her. It's because it's you can't meet that need. It's not fair. So it was really cool to really come back from that and go, that's where this kind of gristle is coming from, of it's just I'm never quite enough. And it's so empowering to come back from and go, God, I was more than enough. It was boom, and that expectation comes off the self then, and I could move forward in a more healthy way.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that helps us get to that place of letting that go is a couple things. One is seeing the futility of it, like realizing that if you do everything, like if you're a perfectionist and you do everything right and you control everything and you achieve, you know, it's never going to be enough. And really seeing that there's no payoff for this, that it's being driven by something really early in life, then that kind of, you know, that depletion can actually serve you in seeing the pattern and letting go of it. So that's one thing, is seeing through the illusion that being the good girl or whatever is going to help you get the approval and love and affirmation that you needed as a little girl. So seeing through the illusion is one thing. The other thing is practicing that muscle, if you will, of taking up space, of having needs, of communicating, you know, your needs and desires. And it's like practicing the opposite, right? Sometimes, you know, when I have clients come in, they're in the good girl role, they know they have to heal it. It can be really healing to practice being a bad girl, you know, not necessarily like, you know, being destructive or anything like that, but just, you know, practicing what it feels like to be more of a whole human being that has moments of being messy, moments of being inconvenient to other people, you know, moments where others disagree with you. And it's all helpful in helping you see that you can survive that you can be safe, even when people don't understand you, even when you're not being an emotional caretaker for people, when you let people have their own process, when you let people have their upset and you don't rush in to rescue them, and realizing that that's okay, you know, like that you're okay. So really resetting those boundaries in your daily life, it really comes down to practicing that and getting support as you do that. Because when our wiring is set up to see safety as being a good girl and taking care of others, it's really challenging to do that on your own without some support to turn that around and really feel in your body. I mean, this really comes down to our bodies as well. When we feel the shift in our bodies, like, wow, I'm really okay when I'm just all the things I wasn't supposed to be when I was a little girl. And also a third thing I would say is grieving how you lost your childhood. You know, parentified daughters have to come to terms with how you weren't given a space to be a child, you know, to make mistakes, to fall down, to learn, to experiment, to be upset and have your feelings listened to and welcomed and understood. We have to grieve that as parentified daughters, and that can take time. And then also we have to feel our anger at being used, because what's really happening is parentified daughters are used by adults to ameliorate their own pain due to their own wounding, due to their own stuff. And that's not a child's job. Mm-hmm. And we have to get upset, you know, anger on our own behalf, and just really affirm to the child within us, what happened to you wasn't okay, you know, and really feel that fierceness and that's a direct line into your authenticity, is to feel your anger, your healthy anger. Anger is a healthy response when our boundaries have been, invaded. So I really love helping women get in touch with their anger and using it as the constructive force that it is to help us rebuild our sense of worth. And that very fierceness that we develop when feeling our own worth, we can use that when we feel thoughts come in, that say, you're not good enough. What are you doing? And we can just set a boundary with those thoughts in much the same way that we would with people who are invading our boundaries. So it sets up this powerful core of integrity within us that helps us to really feel in our bodies our value, our truth, take up space. And as we do that, to see that not as depriving others, but really of being of service to others. Because our greatest service to others is being happy and being fulfilled in loving ourselves, because we give other people permission to do that by our example. Yeah. And we need more women who are willing to go into the unknown and feel these feelings and do this clearing and healing. Because, it's just, the more women do this, the more our culture and our world transforms, and the more we can feel the sovereignty and the value and the worth of the earth itself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you've just said. It's so, I think we're living in very exciting times in these terms. I meet more and more amazing women all the time that are working on this stuff, and the benefits have not only great effects for us personally, but I can see the ripple effects it has on other people, the way we treat ourselves, the way we treat the earth. It has really profound. It produces really profound shifts. But yeah, there were loads of points I wanted to expand on, and I kind of can't remember what they are now. But let me just think into them. That was it. The thoughts. I think that's a really important point to make about when those thoughts come in, because they go into as we expand our horizons of self-doubt. Will this go well? Whatever those thoughts are. I love getting fierce with those, kind of lovingly ruthless, I call it.
Like that.
To go. Sometimes they go in a little bit. And I catch myself and I go, are you being helpful? Well, do you think you could say something helpful then? Because I'm going for it, and you can either get off the train or you can come with me. Yeah. And it's really lovely to really advocate for one's real, true essence like that. And I've found it's really had profound shifts in my life, and continues. So yeah, important point.
And it's true. Those negative thoughts that tell us that we're not good enough, and they're often trying to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And they come from a place of, we had to absorb them in order to feel safe. They're really not our own beliefs. They didn't originate with us. We accepted them. We internalized them when we had no choice, right? So, yeah, I think it's like acknowledging the thoughts, noticing them, and then, friend, like, hello, here you are. And then, continuing on. And maybe even, I like to do sometimes with really negative thoughts, is to invite them to, use their energy not to tear you down, but to really, support you in a new way. Yeah. Like, as I mentioned in the first video, this is really about safety, right? So the things that kept us safe often were beliefs that said, you're not good enough, you're bad. They kept us small so that we didn't threaten our caregivers or trigger them in some way, right?
Yeah.
So what I find, especially with female leaders, women who are parentified daughters but are trying to make a big leap in their career, in their life's work, is to create a sense of safety where the child within us can feel safe no matter what she's feeling. That's really the goal here in this reparenting, remothering work, is to be brick by brick, to really build that structure within us where the child inside of us can feel sad, happy, jealous, disappointed, all these complex human emotions, of which many of them we had to reject or split off from in order to be accepted, right, as children, to bring those back in and to embrace them. And we do that in our daily lives. It's just through, like, practicing, when an emotion comes up, for jealousy, for example, it's an emotion that not many, it's an uncomfortable emotion, to really welcome it, to do the opposite of what, to look at it with curiosity and with love. And as we do that with ourselves, with the child inside of us, we start to feel more and more safe. We get a felt sense that we are okay, no matter what happens outside. And there's no guarantees for any of us about safety on the outside, right?
Yeah.
But we can create a safe, psychological safety within us. And that's really the key, I think, for leadership for women, is as we build that safety within, we come to a place where we can feel truly unstoppable, where we can feel that fierceness of, bringing forward new ideas, new solutions, being bold, being robust in how we show up in the world, in the ways that we use our voices, in what we refuse to tolerate anymore.
Yeah.
And this is really what we need in leaders now, is this level of commitment to integrity, this commitment to being real, this authentic groundedness in who we are that comes not from like suppressing the parts of ourselves that are unacceptable. It really comes from taking off the mask and loving who we truly are on the inside. It comes from deep inner work. And so it's really exciting for women with the Parentified Daughter pattern to create that safety within, because it opens up so many doors, not just for her as a person, as an individual, but also for all potential for women, as each woman creates, transforms this within herself, she opens the way for other women to do that. And I like to say that as women, we're living the new world into being. There's nothing that's going to be like given to us. We actually have to live the way that we want to live. We have to embody those energies and demonstrate them and carry them throughout our day with such deep integrity and in alignment. So it takes a lot of courage and fortitude and fierceness. But with each little tiny step we take, it opens up new horizons. So it's really just this healing journey. It's ongoing, right? It's this spiral. And we're constantly evolving to a new level. And it seems like the time is really ripe for women to step into these. It's kind of like the pressure's on, right? In our world, so much is happening, that we're all feeling this pull, this call to really occupy our space, to take up space and speak our voices.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as we do, I think, become female leaders, we do birth new consciousness.
Yeah.
And if we've worked on our mother wound and continue to do so, then obviously our ideas, our creations, our websites, I know that's a recent one for both of us, our websites, our books, or whatever, are something that we birth and care for and look after in a way that we've got that internal blueprint of mothering ourselves, being mothered, and we mother those things. So I really think doing this work helps us to bring new consciousness forward in the world in a really healthy way. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of thinking, what if someone's watching this, kind of nodding their head and going, that's me. Then what's an exercise someone can do to just start to step into this if they haven't already?
Yeah, sure. What I would invite women to do is to look at a situation in which you feel that pull to caretake or to take care of the other person to your own detriment, putting someone else's needs ahead of your own. It might be fear of disappointing other people, like a really big fear, or a really big fear of not being approved of, and maybe, feeling some panic or anxiety about that. If you have a situation like that, I invite you to bring it down into the original wounding situation. For a moment, put aside the current situation and bring it back down into the original wound. So, and this is something I advise my clients to do all the time, because triggers are really powerful opportunities to rework a lot of this stuff. So if you feel triggered in that caretakey way of, being a good girl, and you feel that anger, that intense anxiety or panic, ask yourself, what does this remind me of about from my childhood? How is this replicating a dynamic that I experienced as a little girl, where I felt the emotions of panic and anxiety? And when you get clarity on what that situation is, I invite you to think about, allow yourself to feel the feeling. Often it's anger or grief that's underneath. For a lot of women, it's a feeling of powerlessness, that, no matter what you do, it's not good enough. Having so little control over your environment, of not being able to make the adults in your life understand where you were coming from, and having to, have no other recourse but to blame yourself and make yourself wrong. So sitting, for example, if it's powerlessness, allowing yourself to sit with the powerlessness and allow yourself to feel it, with a backdrop of support and inner mothering, soothing yourself. Allow whatever emotion needs to come up and surround yourself with love and support. And then a second piece would be, what would be the most empowering thing you can do in this current situation? So bringing it back up to the current situation, what's an empowering choice that you could make that would that give voice to that child, or to affirm the child within you that didn't have any options as a child, but now you do. So how can you be that empowered, strong, loving woman that you needed in your life back then? What action can you take to, say what you couldn't say back then, or take an action or make a new choice that you couldn't make back then? That's deeply empowering and affirming of you and your needs and your value. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. And I want to ask you finally about self-care as well, as we kind of turn this around into Parentified Daughter, into mothering ourselves in a more healthy, empowering way. I'd love your kind of top tips and what you do to really give yourself really self-care that makes a difference. Because we can I'm just noticing the difference here between, okay, I can buy myself a new body lotion, right? And I can rub it on and I can feel really good. And that can be part of a genuine self-care routine. But really, if you could give us some tips on those self-care actions that make a deep difference to really shift that blueprint.
Yeah, that's a great question. Self-care is such a critical core component of healing the mother wound, right? Because it's about mothering. It's about loving ourselves. And so I encourage women to put as many self-care things into their day. And it's not always the most powerful self-mothering pieces are usually, one of them can be something that you wanted as a little girl that you wished your mother would do for you. Yeah. And doing that for yourself now. Okay. Because it's the thing that really helps each of us feel mothered is really different for each of us, because each of our wounds are a little different. But so I would invite everyone who's listening to do that, to think back, what were some of the things that you wished your mother did for you when you were a little girl? And I would say 3 things. What are the 3 things you wished? Maybe it was wishing that she would read to you. Maybe it was wishing that she would spend more time with you, just hanging out, free time. Maybe you wish that she would pay for you to take lessons of some kind, or to something that you really enjoyed doing. When we do those things now, it sends a really powerful message to our inner child that she is worthy, that you are listening to what she needs, what she wants. Yeah. So it's a really attentive way to mother the child within you. So that's one thing. Another thing and I think this is true for me, and I think it's true for a lot of us. The thing that really helps me feel deeply mothered is giving myself free time to not do anything. So like maybe a few hours, a span of hours where I don't have to do anything. I can follow my own needs. I can eat when I want to eat. I can lay down when I want to lay down. I can go lay in the sun if I want. I can take a nap. There's something about giving oneself time to follow your own deep rhythms, to find that rhythm inside of you of what your body naturally wants, and then filling that need. Because that's really what a mother does for a child, right? A child has a need, a child is crying, the mother comes and attends to the need, meets the need. Okay. So it's like constantly the need and the meeting of need. And so when we have a space of time open to us, we can really mimic that powerful listening to what it is we deeply need, and then we can quickly fill the need. And it's such a beautiful dance of self-love. And so I find for me, that is the ultimate mothering, is giving myself just time to play, like open space. Like, what do I want to do? You know, do I want to read a book? Do I want to take a walk? And because in those spaces, we just get in deeper touch with our deeper selves. So that's one thing. And then another thing that I recommend, it's deeply mothering, is often related to our bodies. So making it some kind of practice around getting enough sleep. Sometimes it's hard to do all at the same time, but getting enough sleep, getting really good food, putting yourself on some kind of rhythm. Children love structure. It helps them to feel supported. So if you can give yourself some kind of structure where you build into your day, there's some non-negotiables around your care. That's a powerful one that can really catalyze you in different ways, creating a structure that you stick to, even if it's just one thing that you do regularly and consistently. Because a lot of this work isn't just one time, and done. It's an over time, consistent thing, right? So, and then another thing I would suggest, because there's so much, is just dialoguing with your inner child, getting to build a relationship with her, because she is a living energy inside of you. So even if it seems a little weird, like, okay, I'm dialoguing with my inner child, I felt that in the beginning and I kind of resisted a bit. It's normal, but play with it and really get in touch with her, because that relationship between your inner child and you as an inner mother to yourself is what changes everything. It's what changes the game. That is the relationship you will have until, the end of your life, where safety is that key component. So the more you can jump right into that relationship and create a consistent mothering, space inside of you, you're going to see changes in the outside of your life.
Yeah, I agree. Because I just, the final point I would like to make and discuss just a little further is that when we've been parentified daughters and looked after our primary carer to that extent, I know for me, I've had difficulty receiving care in the past, and receiving presents and compliments, from others, and doing those deep self-care practices nice and consistently, genuinely sort of start to just dissolve that block to receiving the protection from receiving. So if you could just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's a big one for a lot of women as well.
Definitely, receiving is huge. So many of us saw our mothers deflect receiving, that was, deflect compliments, help. It was a sign of weakness to receive, and that's what the culture says too. It's more powerful to give. You're more in control. And sometimes receiving people, there's this idea that you're, think you're better than, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of beliefs that limit our ability to receive. And I would, pay attention to that resistance to receiving and look deeper into that. What's scary about receiving? What's scary about that? Really go into that place. Because often there's some kind of grief there. Maybe grief about that when you received something, it was taken away from you. Or grief that, watching your mother not receive anything that she needed in her life, and how hard that was for you. The sense that if I receive, I'm taking away from my mother, so there's a lot to unpack there. And the most powerful way to do that is to look at the resistance. I find that, some people say, well, I tried to do this and I feel this resistance and I can't do it and I'm pushing myself. And I like to say, don't push yourself. There's something in the resistance for you to look at. Yeah. And once you unpack that, it will clear the way for you to move forward. Yeah. But pushing against our resistance doesn't work. We have to just embrace the next layer and, see what's inside that.
Yeah. It kind of strengthens the resistance, I felt, because if you push against resistance, it goes, I'm being pushed. I better do my job and resist even more.
Right.
You just get a lot of tension. So
I would say, too, to practice receiving. Like, receiving is a skill. I think it's a skill that we're learning, right? And so we have to practice. Yeah. And practice receiving every day. Notice when you receive things that are like really even very small, like, you receive, trying to think of like a quick example, but you receive, go ahead.
A friend paying for your coffee or something.
Yeah.
I'll get this, and being able to say, thanks.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's a simple thing, but I find it very wonderful to not kind of try and just go, thanks very much.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, and really pause. I like to invite people to pause, too. Whenever you receive something, just breathe it in. Take it in. Another powerful thing with receiving is to use your senses. Because in every moment, we're receiving something, right? We're receiving plenty of air into our lungs.
Yeah.
We may be receiving the sunlight coming onto us. There's always something that we're receiving in every moment.
Yeah.
So, tap into that, like what it feels like to receive the support of the chair underneath you. It's holding you up. You can relax on this chair, and like really, and this opens up. The more we can look and see how we're receiving all the time, that actually attracts more things to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. I could really do like 6 more videos today with this. I'm really enjoying it. But we will come to a close now. And would you like to add anything just on that topic? And then I really want to tell people that you've got some courses and some other resources on your website too.
Yeah, sure. One thing I would like to share to close with this on the Parentified Daughter is that just a reminder that in those moments when you may feel panic or sadness or grief or some kind of fear around a trigger that comes up, an important thing to remember is that we will never be as wounded or as vulnerable or in danger as much as we were as children. And so remind yourself that when those feelings come up that feel overwhelming, that remind yourself that this is just a traumatic residue from the past, and that you can never, ever be in that kind of painful situation again because you're an adult, because now you have resources and tools and you're an adult now. You're not an innocent child who has no resources and is dependent on people that can't provide. So I think that's a powerful thing to remember, that the things sometimes that we fear the most have already happened.
Yeah.
And as a parentified daughter, it only gets better. As we go in this journey, it's actually a journey of receiving, a journey of abundance. It gets better and better and better with each layer that we heal. It becomes about receiving more joy. More joy comes to us, we receive it. And sometimes we feel grief in the contrast of like, wow, I'm happier than I've ever been. And you can feel the sadness of what you didn't have. And so it becomes a blissful kind of joyous coming home with each layer to a place of more abundance, more joy, more love. And so just life gets better.
It does get better, doesn't it? Yes, I absolutely agree. As you're saying it, I'm like, yeah. I think that's a wonderful note to close on as well. Like, life simply gets better. We work on this, life gets better. That's awesome. And I want to remind people as well, firstly, thank you you so much for giving your time and being so generous with your information and your support. It's really been helpful for me, and I'm sure it's going to help lots and lots of women.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. And so we said to people in the last one that they can go to womboflight.com and you have a free ebook. But I also understand that you have a mini course and a full online course as well for anyone who wants to really take this deeper.
Yes, I offer a lot of different ways to work with me on this issue of healing the mother wound. I teach a 7-step process that brings you through the journey and breaks it down so that you can actually make your way through, the birth canal of the mother wound into your full brilliance, into your full power. And so you can do that in a mini course, which is, that's just a taster. It's kind of an introduction. But then I have a full course, which you can purchase on my website. You get right into it, and there's also community support. There's a very global, vibrant Facebook group associated with that, and you also get bi-weekly Q&A calls, lifetime with me. So I'm really committed to providing, long-term support for women doing this work. And then I also offer private coaching. I have a couple private coaching programs that include an array of various components. And then I also have a VIP year-long coaching program for female leaders who are, ready to take a quantum leap in their career and ready to transform the mother wound issues that have kept them blocked. So there's a lot of different ways to work with me, and you can find that all at my website at womboflight.com.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much again for all your very generous information.
You're welcome. This has been really fun. Thanks so much, Melanie, and for everybody who's listening.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Bethany.
Bye.